Let's bring our next guest, a man who has defended freedom, loves his country, retired Navy SEAL and Congressman from Texas, Dan Crenshaw. Congressman, good to see you. So as we lay out this, problem in America, how do we get back to those founding principles and ideals that have made this country so great?
That's always what we're fighting for, Sean. We're always trying to get back to those, and we get back to them by just talking about them, by reminding people of what they are. The question is, what will the founders think of us today? And look, let's be honest, I think it'd be a mixed bag. I know it's popular to say they'd be rolling over in their graves, they'd hate it. Well, that's probably true about some things. I think you nailed some of the cultural issues. I think they'd be upset about how we feel about our country, how we feel about the value of hard work and religion, the victimhood narratives that are prevalent in our society. I think they'd be appalled by that. I'd also think that they look at where we are now as longstanding number one country in the world, and they think, you know what, we did a pretty good job. And they pat themselves on their back a little bit because we do have an extraordinarily stable form of government. And I think they would say, wow, even those idiots can run this thing. We did a pretty good job. And so we do have some things to be optimistic about every once in a while. But how do you get it back? Look, you just talk about it. Talk about these founding principles. I remind everybody what the Declaration of Independence was. It tells us why we have a government. It's really important. The Constitution tells us how we govern. But the Declaration was why. And why is it? To protect the inalienable rights of the individual, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Not make you happy. See, this is where the left gets it wrong. They want to make you happy. No, you should have the freedom to pursue that happiness. That's what they protected, and that's what we're fighting to protect now.
Congressman, America was founded also on the separation of powers among the branches of government. And this is what Sean and I talk about privately, is the efforts to kind of undermine this structure of government. And Democrats want to attack, particularly, and pack and forever change the Supreme Court. Just watch this.
This is a deeper fundamental assault on democracy when you see the highest court in the land having the lowest ethical bounds.
There certainly should be term limits. There certainly be term limits. And if nothing else, there should be some ethical rules that would be followed. I had one justice tell me he thought the other justices were people of integrity, like a Clarence Thomas. I'm like, get out of here.
We need to limit the power of the justices by expanding the court, instituting term limits, and stripping its ability to take away fundamental rights.
If the Supreme Court isn't going to do anything to restore the public's trust, then it's up to us in Congress.
Well, Congressman, the Democrats were using the high court and the judicial branch as an arm of the legislature for so many decades. And when that reversed under President Trump, they get mad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say about separation of powers, how are the founders feel? And I was going to say, the Supreme Court has held up pretty well. And clearly that's what makes Democrats so mad. The fact that it is one of those institutions that has held up well as its own institution. Look, it's given bad judgments in the past, right? But conservatives have always stood by maintaining the integrity of that institution. That's what we stand by now. As far as other checks and balances, I think they'd be confused by the fact that in modern times, our real check on power is the other party. It's the opposing party. They did not envision it that way. They thought Congress should be the opposition to the president. They didn't think in terms of parties the way we do now. I think they'd be surprised by that. How do we change that? I don't know. That's a much longer conversation. But it's a reminder to everybody, no matter what party you're in, that, and especially in Congress, Sean, you know this, you served there right there with me. We should hold on to that power jealously. I mean, we're Article 1, not the president, and that's something Congress has given up, as you know, over time.
And one of the greatest problems that we face, I think, each Congress cedes more power to the executive, diminishing their own power, and there has to be some kind of congressional agreement to roll that back and empower this third co-equal branch of government, which is the Congress. But I want to move to an issue, Congressman, that's close to your heart, I know. Our military is facing a recruiting crisis. Military leaders have projections that they gave to the House Armed Services Committee in April, and the Army and the Air Force estimate they'll miss their recruiting goals by 10,000 people each. The Navy expected to miss theirs by 6,000. Meanwhile, just 13% of Americans are highly willing to join the forces, according to the Reagan Institute. So a real problem here with young people willing to serve the country. What does that say about the state of America today, Congressman?
It's a longer conversation, as a lot of these really interesting topics are. I don't know how those numbers compare to 20 years ago. I'm sure right after 9/11, there's active war right now, so I think it's naturally going to see difficulty recruiting. Here's my main complaint, and something that's very fixable for the military, Department of Defense. I want you to market and make commercials that show hard people doing hard, challenging things. That's what I want, because that's what attracts the right kind of person. The recruiting problem is truly that simple. It really is that simple. The people you want are afraid that they're joining some woke nonsense institution. You have to convince them otherwise. You have to show them that that buds and becoming a Navy SEAL is still as hard as it ever was. And by the way, it actually is. It really is as hard as it ever was. You have to show them that across the board. You have to show them that you're going to train them to be a war fighter and a defender of this country. And I guarantee you the right people will want to join. It's not much more complicated than that.
We're looking for a few good men. That works.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, look, I saw cool commercials, I hate to say it, Special Forces commercials, where they have them on a special reconnaissance mission in the middle of the nowhere in the desert. They're watching some target, and they say, it puts in cool letters like they had 5 days of food and supplies. They're on day 10. And it's like, wow, those guys are awesome. I want to be like that. And the Navy SEAL commercials are obviously way cooler, but, I'm giving the Army this one thing.
I told a SEAL joke the other day that I won't repeat. It was a joke told to me by a former Army Ranger, so I won't tell it. It's not me.
Well, tell it one more time.
Now you have to. I mean,
what does SEAL stand for? Sleep, eat, and lift.
Oh, sleep, eat, and lift, yeah. No, that's so old. Oh my!
So,
I've heard it a million
I
times.
know.
You know what we say about Rangers? You know what we say about the Rangers? Who told you that?
What's
that?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Dan Crenshaw.
Actually, we can make a recruiting commercial just out of that. Like pit the Rangers against the SEALs.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Dan Crenshaw.
It's a healthy rivalry.
Listen, man. Thank you for your service. We appreciate you joining us on The Bottom Line. Have a good one. Thank you.